It's 4 o'clock. I've got a melody on my lap, being all cute. Yeah. And I am changing my mind about a lot of things. I always this is why I don't tell people what I'm doing with my life, because I like to be able to go with the flow. And I mean, I guess I'm getting more comfortable with doing that anyway, even when I do tell people what I'm doing and not caring if people are like, whoa, she's always changing her mind. Like, okay, well, yeah, I do. I change my mind sometimes. That's fine. But anyway, also this part of my bangs is still just like, it always wants to curl in a way that is stupid looking. This one just does the nice, cute little like flippy outy curl, which is perfect, but this one is stubborn. So anyway, here's why I'm changing my mind, because I was listening to one of the classes from the Writing Gals conference, and they were talking about newsletters and how to get more newsletter subscribers and all that jazz. And all the things they were saying, I was like, oh yeah, those are all really good things to do, and they're things that I've thought about doing, but I haven't done yet, and I'm just realizing how much I really, really want to do them, and how I think it will be really valuable and important to have done that as soon as possible, because ideally, when I really think about this, I wish I had done these things before I started publishing this marriage materials series, because this is kind of the series that I'm finally, I'm not like selling like hotcakes or anything, but I am selling some books, which is nice, and I'm getting new readers who are reading this series and enjoying it, and I feel like I will be really upset with myself if I get a bunch of new readers for this series and I don't set up any kind of like really good system for them to sign up for my newsletter so that I can contact them in the future about other new books and stuff like that, because it's so useful to be able to have someone's email that you can contact them. And so there are a few things that I haven't done yet when it comes to mailing list stuff and my marriage material series. And I think I need to do those things, and I think I need to do them right now. So I'm going to be setting aside my secret project for now, because as much as that one is like really fun and it's in my mind and I like want to write it, and maybe I can still write that sometimes if I'm like just in the mood to write something, I guess, but as much as I am like itching to write that story, it is kind of the only thing on my list right now that does not have any kind of time constraint. I don't need to do that ever, really, if I don't want to, and I certainly don't need to do it soon. So it doesn't really make sense to work on that project right now, and I think I need to do some other things first. So right now, here's my plan. So my updated new plan. When it comes to newsletters and giving people incentive to sign up, there are a couple different ways that you can do that a lot of authors do that. And reader magnets is what I'm going to be talking about right now. Something called reader magnets. Now, what that is, there's kind of two different types of reader magnet. One would be like a free story that you give out to people who have never read any of your stuff before. You just say, hey, I wrote this thing, it's free, you can have it, all you have to do is sign up for my newsletter and then you will get it for free. That's one type of reader magnet. And then the other type is a post-book incentive. So if you read one of my books and then at the end of the book it'll say, hey, if you enjoyed this and you want to read an extended epilogue for this story, sign up for my newsletter, and then you can get that for free. So there's those two different types of reader magnets, and I have reader magnets for most of my books. For Keep No Record, I have a deleted scene. For Broken Together, I have an extended epilogue. And all of this information is at the back of my books. So if you have bought any of these books and you're curious, unless you bought a really old copy before I set this stuff up, then you might not have that information in there. But if you bought any of my books and you didn't look at the back and now you're finding out like, oh, there's a free story that I can have, yes, there is. And then for Moving On, Leaning In, and Letting Go, that's all kind of one story. So at the end of Letting Go, there is an offer for an extended epilogue. And if you loved Ari and Charlotte's story and you haven't read that extended epilogue yet, I'm telling you, you freaking have to, because it's very cute, if I do say so myself. It sounds weird to say that about my own thing, but like, I really love Ari and Charlotte, and I love that extended epilogue. It's a very sweet and very special moment in their relationship. So if you haven't read that yet, you should. And I guess since I'm saying that, I should also probably tell you right now how you can do that, in case that is you and you're like, okay, great, I'd love to, but how? All you have to do is sign up for my newsletter. Everybody who signs up for my newsletter, which is down below in the description, you get access to my whole backlog of whatever kind of free stuff I've offered for newsletter subscribers. All of the things I just said, the deleted scenes and the extended epilogues and all of that, you get access to. And the first email you will get from me will tell you, actually I think it's the second email you'll get from me will tell you how you can access all of that free stuff. So anyway, all of those stories have reader magnets. Working with the Enemy also has a really good reader magnet. It's like a 20,000 word novella that's from the male character's point of view, because the whole book, that book is not dual point of view. It's just from the woman's perspective. So you can get his point of view with his novella, which is free at the end of that book. So I think that's a really good incentive. But I realized that I don't have any kind of newsletter incentive at the end of my newest book that just came out a couple days ago, Faking It with the Informant. I don't have any newsletter bonus in the back of that book. And I've had quite a few people buying it and reading it and saying how much they love it. And I'm like, man, that's one person now, one more person who really loved this book, but probably didn't sign up for my newsletter because they didn't really have a reason to. So I feel like I'm missing out on an opportunity by not having something to offer them at the back of the book. So I'm going to write an extended epilogue for that story, and I'm going to get that polished as quickly as I can and get it put into the book and update the book files, and then maybe try to like let everyone else know if they have read it already that there is an extended epilogue now. But that's the thing, that's the problem though, is that if people read my books and then they don't sign up for my newsletter, and then I decide to like write a free like fun extended epilogue later, I can't go contact all those people who read the book and say, hey, look, here's this free thing you might enjoy, because I don't have a way to contact them unless they sign up for my newsletter. So that's what I'm missing out on by not having a reader magnet at the back of this book. So I've decided from now on, I'm going to try to make it kind of like a standard part of my process that when I finish a book, it's not actually finished and it's not actually ready to be published until I write something extra to offer as a newsletter incentive, which is probably usually going to be an extended epilogue, because that's honestly not that hard to do, and it's fun to do, because I'm always enjoying writing the characters that I'm writing and never quite ready to let them go. And a lot of times when I get to the point of writing an epilogue, you know, it's like this is just the beginning of their love story. They only just got together. So when you're trying to decide, well, what am I going to write about in the epilogue? It's like there is an entire lifetime worth of stuff to choose from. Like I could write a proposal or a wedding or them having their first baby or their honeymoon or like their first Christmas together or moving in together. There are so many different things you could choose from. So a lot of times when I get to the point of writing an epilogue, I have a little bit of a hard time deciding what I'm going to write about because there are usually several different ideas that sound fun. So adding an extended epilogue is not going to be hard, like ever. That'll always be really easy for me to do. So that's the first thing on my to-do list right now, is to write an extended epilogue for Faking It with the Informant, since that book just came out, and get that added to the back of the book as soon as possible before everybody keeps buying the book. And then I have already finished book 3 in the Marriage Material series, called Falling for Sunshine. Actually, I don't want to tell you that yet. Sorry, I just said what the name of the book was, and I don't know if I've announced that yet. I guess I have. I think it's in the back of Faking It with the Informant. So it's called Falling for Sunshine. That's book 3's title. So I finished that book, but I don't have a bonus for that either. So I need to write an extended epilogue for that book also before I publish it. And then the real kicker is that what I'd really like to do is have a free reader magnet that comes before this series. So I have a story I can give out to people for free that will get them led into working with the enemy, which will then lead them to Faking with the Informant, which will lead them to Falling for Sunshine, which will lead them to book 4 and then book 5 and then whatever my next series is. So I want to write something that comes before Working with the Enemy. And this is something I had thought about doing before, and part of the reason why I didn't do it is because I couldn't figure out what it would be about, because a lot of people said, oh, well, you know, take whoever the couple is in your first book, maybe write something about them that happens before that. Like if they already know each other, maybe you could write the day that they met and write like a little short story about it. But the problem is that Andy and Max from Working with the Enemy, they do already know each other. They've worked together for years, but Max is currently going through a divorce in Working with the Enemy, which means he's married, which means when he and Andy met, like several years ago, he was married. So I can't write a story about them meeting and like being attracted to each other while he's married and not yet like separated and going through a divorce. That would be really weird and inappropriate. So I can't make the story about Andy and Max, and I can't even really have them in the book, whatever prequel kind of story I write, because it would just be really weird to read a story where there's this guy who's happily married to this woman, and then in the next book you read, he and that woman are like getting a divorce and he's with someone else. That would be weird for a romance series. So I didn't know who to write the story about. And my other idea was, you know, this book, Working with the Enemy, I think is season 11 of the Marriage Material TV show. So that means there have been 10 other seasons and 10 other couples. And there is one, their very first couple on the first season is still together. And they're like, oh, the cute, like Brad and Christina, they're our like shining example of how successful this experience could be because they're still together. So I thought maybe I could write Brad and Christina's story. But there's two problems with that. One is that it would not be able to be a novella because the the process of how they would meet and fall in love on this reality show would just be really hard to write in a short amount of time. And then the second problem is that I am already struggling with writing 5 books in this series with this same format of like the reality dating show and not having them all feel like exactly the same story and be kind of boring and repetitive. So quite frankly, I do not want to write a 6th book about a reality dating show. I'm like, it's a tough format to work with. Tougher than I expected. So I didn't want to do that. But I was thinking about it today and I realized I think I have the answer. I think the prequel story is going to be about the woman who created the Marriage Material show. Because in Working with the Enemy, Andy and Max's boss, Rachel, is pregnant. And she is about to go on her maternity leave, but at the very beginning of the story, she announces to everyone that instead of just going on maternity leave, she's actually stepping down from the position of what is her position title? I'm blanking. Showrunner. Showrunner. She's the showrunner. And she's going to be stepping down, and Andy and Max are both up for potentially being her replacement. So that's the conflict of the story, of Andy's story in Working with the Enemy, is trying to get this promotion and going up against Max for it. So I thought it would be kind of fun if the prequel story was about Rachel, and maybe it could be about her creating this show, or maybe the first season of the show and how that went for her. And if we get to see her fall in love in this prequel, then in Working with the Enemy, that we get, it's like 10 years later and now she's having her first baby and she's starting her family, and like that could be actually really fun for readers to see. So that would actually turn Rachel from being like just kind of a unimportant side character into someone who readers actually kind of care about. So I think that's a decent idea for a prequel novella, but I have absolutely no vision yet for what that is gonna look like, or what the story is gonna be about, or who her love interest is gonna be. So, or if it's gonna be about her before the show started, like creating the show, or if it's gonna be about her first season working on the show. Is she even the creator of the show? She's the showrunner, but that doesn't mean necessarily that she created it. So, I don't know. I don't know exactly what it's gonna look like, but I think that's a decent idea. So, that was a lot of talking. I've been talking for 20 minutes, which I was not expecting to do, but that always seems to happen with me. That's what we're gonna go with for now. And it is 4:15. I do have, through the Writing Gals Conference, we have some writing sprints that are starting at 5. So I guess I'll probably join that and maybe try to start writing the epilogue for Faking It with the Informant. I think I already have an idea of what that's going to be about. Anyway, that's the plan. I also need to read some more of The Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren before Saturday. So that is the plan for tonight. Also on the docket for tonight is looking at this cute girl. Hi, cute girl. You so squinty. Alright, it's time. It's time to email Amazon about my poorly printed books and ask them to send me new copies. And I don't want to do it, but I'm going to. Gas mask, all that kind of stuff where you're undertaking an FTL-style journey across the wasteland to try to reach. You guys, I really want to be able to say good things about anything Christina Lauren because I love their books, but man, this one was not it for me. Something I find very frustrating in a lot of romance books is a lot of times I really don't like the big thing at the end that like draws the couple apart. And it's not that I don't like that part of, a lot of people get hate for saying that. They're like, well, then you don't like romance novels because that's what romance structure is. There's always that moment. It's like, it's not that I don't like that moment exists. It's that so often I just don't feel like it's done very well, and I don't like it. I don't like the way the author chooses to do it. And this book felt the same for me. I did not like that moment, and another thing that I really don't like that kind of goes along with that, especially in this book, is I hate it when the man is always the one doing the big grand gesture thing at the end to like win the woman back, even when she's the one who's like been extremely unreasonable and kind of like made an issue out of things that didn't really need to be a big issue. And that's kind of how this book went for me. I feel like basically this guy in this book was like literally the most perfect, like, hang on, I'm gonna move into the other room because I'm in the kitchen and my husband's about to come in and finish making dinner for us. So, I feel like James, the main guy in this book, is like literally perfect to a degree that I actually kind of didn't like because it honestly felt like this guy has zero flaws and he is just the most perfect, precious, fawning over your every move kind of boyfriend. And yet he literally made like one mistake, which I will talk about in a second, which I honestly don't even feel like was a mistake. It was actually kind of something really nice that he was trying to do that was more of a misunderstanding than a mistake. And she didn't talk to him for 9 weeks and essentially was just like, we're not together anymore. Like there was almost like not even, at least not that we were privy to, there was not even a conversation of like, we're not going to be together anymore. It was like, everything's good, then I find out this one thing, and then it's over. It's totally over. I'm not going to talk to you for 9 weeks until my friends kind of like invite you to this party that I didn't even want to invite you to kind of force me to talk to you again. And then even after all of that, which in my opinion felt like she was 100% the one being extremely unreasonable, and to be fair, there was a period, if for anyone who's read this book, you might be frustrated with me right now because you might be saying, but she needed that time on her own to figure out her own life. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely she did. But she could have texted him and said, hey, I am going through a lot of crazy stuff right now, and I need some time to figure out myself and what I want in my life without like a partner with me and without having to think about how you fit into that. That's a reasonable thing to say. And then I would have loved, and I did love, all of the moments toward the end of this book where she's kind of like learning more about herself now that she's not... Okay, I'm cutting myself off there and interrupting because I don't want to spoil things too much, but she's learning more about herself and gaining some independence, and that was a really sweet and cute part of this story that I enjoyed. However, what tainted that whole section of the story for me was how insane it was to me that this man that she like loves and who loves her so much and adores her and is so sweet with her and has been absolutely nothing but like the perfect man in her life, she's willing to just leave him hanging for 9 weeks and not say a single word to him. And then when they finally do talk, she finds out that he's still he's still in town, which she wasn't sure if he would even still be living there because it was kind of a temporary situation for him. And he said, yeah, I am still in town because I love you and I don't want to be far away from you. So this guy, who has been absolutely perfect, except for this one tiny thing that he did that you kind of, like, in my opinion, very much overreacted about. He did one thing wrong, and you don't talk to him for 9 weeks and leave him hanging with absolutely no idea if you even still want to be with him or if you just hate him or whatever. And he continues to live in your town for those 9 weeks on the blind hope that maybe someday you'll just decide to be reasonable again and, like, have a conversation with him. That's insane to me. Like, that is so unhealthy. And I do agree, or I can at least, like, accept the fact that some of the side characters who are friends with the girl in this book did tell her that they thought she was overreacting and stuff. So it's not like we're supposed to think that, like, oh, you know, I think we're supposed to kind of think that she's overreacting a little. But the problem I have is that even when a situation goes like that in a book, the guy is still the one who ended up smoothing everything over. And, you know, it wasn't like a massive grand gesture in the end, but it was a little bit of a grand gesture. And he was the one who took the step to say, I love you, and to say, I'm so sorry that I, you know, did this thing that was such a big mistake and I regret my actions. And she didn't say a single damn word about, I'm sorry that I didn't speak to you for 9 weeks over the very first thing you've ever done that was a little bit not cool. And, like, do I still have a chance with you? I'm like, maybe she should be wondering if she still has a chance with you, buddy, because you've been very great and you made one mistake and she ghosted you for 9 weeks. That's unreasonable. If someone did that to me after the very first thing I ever did that was wrong, especially when the thing he did was, like, I'm not going to get into the details of what it was because it would take too much explanation of the story, but it really, in my opinion, it was not a big deal at all. But it just felt ridiculous to me that the end of all of that should be him having to go, like, grovel and ask her if he still has a chance with her and apologize for, say he regretted how he handled things. And I'm like, does she regret how she handled this? Because she handled it extremely poorly and in a way that was not thinking about your feelings at all. It just frustrates me. I feel like there are a lot of books out there there are a lot of romance books where the women seem to be able to do a lot of really crappy stuff and the guys can't even do anything slightly wrong without it being like, that's it, we're over, and if you want me back, you have to come grovel at my feet and beg for me to forgive you. And that's just, like, not the way a healthy relationship dynamic should work. That is the end of my rant on that. I really hate when that happens in romance novels. It ruins the book for me, and this ruined this book for me. It wasn't my favorite one of their books to begin with, but I was enjoying it by the end, but that just really, I don't like it. I don't like it. But I did finish the book in time to get it back to the library before it's due. So I'm going to have dinner, watch some shows with my man, and then I will bring my library books back. And then probably just relax for the rest of the night or clean my house, I guess. Because I feel like it's just been a long week and I'm tired.